This is our lovely Honeybuns bike, and it's a 1967 Old Pashley post office bike, Royal Mail post office bike. So when I bought it back in Oxford a million years ago now, 27 years ago when I first started Honeybuns, bought it from an old second-hand shop, and of course the colour was red, the Royal Mail issue red. And then I started delivering to cafes and delis around Oxford, thought she needed a bit of a makeover, so painted her blue. And then we started going to Glastonbury Festival with our pop-up cafe, and we decided to add the polka dots. So yeah, she's had a rich and varied career and now resides here at Honeybuns Bakery in Dorset. And this is the original delivery basket as well, so put all my goodies on there, cycled around delivering. And we're walking down, this is quite interesting illustration of why the BeeGreen conservation work is so important to us here at Honeybuns. This is an old droveway, so an ancient driveway to the market where sheep would have been driven from Sturminster Newton up through to Sherborne. And this droveway is beautifully lined with old, stunning oak trees and ash trees and what have you. And it was totally impassable when we moved here. It was all brambles and undergrowth and diseased hedges and what have you. So it's been a labour of love to clear the way. And it is a public footpath as well, so we try and encourage and advertise that fact so people can come and enjoy it as well. And I'll just point out the hedge planting that we've been doing. And all of us, well, not quite all of us, but most of us at Honeybuns are mad on nature and conservation. So we all get stuck into planting and what have you when the bakery might be a little bit quieter. And these little whips are 2 years old now, and they fill in the gaps and will develop into a really lovely thick hedge. And we've planted a mixture of hawthorn, blackthorn, field maple and spindle, briar rose, all sorts of lovely native species which are wildlife friendly. And I think if we walked a little bit further on, yeah, just that where that gap in the hedge is there, you've got the horizontal branches. That's where we've laid the hedge. That's not a particularly good example because it's quite gappy, but the idea is that you lay the uprights horizontally or near to horizontal, and then they will grow and thicken laterally and create an interwoven network of branches rather than just going up like poles. You can see a better example there actually, where it's thickening out now. And the reason for that is it helps to keep animals where they should be. So if you've got sheep in the field, they can't hop over from field to field because it forms a bushy barrier. But also it's brilliant for wildlife because you've got birds that can nest in there and small animals can take shelter without predators like weasels and stoats being able to run up the poles and attack them. So that's one of the reasons we like to do that. Donkeys that we've got, there's Chino and Tinker in the distance. Those of you who do our Facebook Win Loads of Cake competitions might be familiar with Tinker Tuesday, which we've named after him. These two little chaps, they graze in and around the nature reserve that we've set up, which is a 5-acre area surrounding the bakery here at Honeybuns. And they're important because A, they graze and keep the weeds down and help us to manage the pasture, but also all of the cardboard that we get into the bakery, which is considerable actually, all the cartons for the packaging, cartons for ingredients, all that stuff, would otherwise be taken away and recycled, but we actually get it shredded, and the shredded cardboard is then used as their winter bedroom bedding. So they spend the winter on a yard in the barn here at the bakery, an old farm, and that bedding then gets rotted down with their manure, with basically their poop on the cardboard, resulting in really, really high quality, eventually high quality compost once it's all rotted down, which is a really sustainable, zero waste involved, peat-free compost, which I think is a brilliant example of a closed loop circuit of recycling that we've got here at Honeybuns. This is our wild beehive, and we had it installed a couple of years ago by a gentleman called Matt Somerville. And Matt's from Sussex, and I think he's the only one in the country. It's certainly his own design, based on how they would have kept wild bees in areas of Provence, southern France and Italy, so that where they would kind of encourage wild bees to swarm so that they could then take the honey, they would put hollowed out logs and hang them in trees. So this is a sort of a vertical version of that, if you will, because obviously the log is going lengthways, and that's why it's elevated as well, because apparently the bees feel safer, which sort of makes sense. And all he did was put it up on stilts, put the thatched truckle lid on there, and he showed me how to do it. There's a resin which is a byproduct of bees, this kind of ball of resin that comes from the pollen, and he rubbed the inside of the beehive with the resin, and he said that that would release pheromones to attract a swarm of wild bees. When Matt put the Freedom Hive in, he predicted that wild bees would send scouts out to look for homes about May time, I think he said. He said it would typically take a week for them to find the new hive, which is exactly what happened. So the scout bee came along, and then within 5 days the bees had swarmed and made their nest and brought their queen in. So it's been really interesting. I knew nothing about beekeeping at all, but was really intrigued by the system whereby you just take enough honey that you need. You'll notice that it's on stilts. That's so that the bees can fly directly out and collect the pollen in their flight path. So they're going on to, I don't know whether you can see, but this is all orchard that we planted here in 2016. We've got a mixture of plum, apple, pear and walnut trees in here, but also we've interlaced with lime trees, which bees are particularly fond of. And they also like being on the edge of woodlands, so you can notice in the distance it's thicker planted, and the bees are just on the edge so that they can dip in and out and get what they need, but they've got a straight, reasonably free flight path back to the hive. And we got quite a few jars last year. I think it was 20 jars from 7 combs of honey. We leave some of the honey in there for the bees to overwinter with, and it seems to work really well. I've never seen them quite this active, but I've been told that this year, 2025, has been exceptional for blossom and for pollinating insects, including bees, so it was brilliant to see them.